Larry Mitchell here. Just want to remind you to watch my friend Dave on NEZ SEZ on YouTube at Thursday nights, 7 o'clock, maybe Thursday night, 8 o'clock. Catch NEZ SEZ with Dave and Todd.
We're live once again. Today's Thursday, July 30th, and you're tuned into NEZ SEZ, a place where musicians can come together and inspire each other to play more guitar. Thanks for being with us today. We have a very special show for you tonight. My name is Dave Nesdahl, and this is my co-host, Ty Price. Hey, Ty! What's happening?
Hey, Dave. Happy Thursday. It's great to see you. Great to be with you again, and I'm so happy that we're joined by our special guest tonight, a very accomplished guitar player, singer, and musical director. He has played with some of the most influential artists in popular music. You know, he's been in the Alan Parsons Project. He's played with Ann Wilson from Heart, Billy Squier, and how about Jack Bruce, the mighty Jack Bruce. He was the lead guitar player and vocalist for the John Entwistle Band. You know John. You know that from that little band, The Who.
Who?
Yeah, The Who. And today he is the lead guitar player for British blues legends, the Yardbirds. And tonight he's going to join us for a conversation. And we're so honored to have Mr. Godfrey Townsend with us. Godfrey, welcome to NEZ SEZ.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget, Clapton is Godfrey. So,
we're going to talk about that. That's very interesting. We're going to talk about that.
Let's say hello to everyone in the chat real quick. Susie Cherry, Kelly. Susie Cherry and Kelly again. Chris Bevan, David Scher, Will Van Han Solo, beautiful 59 Les Paul Jr. you got there, Will. Awesome, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Will.
Ben Coombs is here.
Ben?
Fruitcake Tony is here.
Hey, Tony.
Let's see, who else is here? Ty Price is here.
I'm here. Janice Lal is here. Papa Blue is here.
Yes. Who else do we have? John Harden is here. I hope you're enjoying that guitar, John. Van Hagar is here. Kathy Gill. Papa Blue. Christine Perrine. I hope I said that correctly. Forgive me if I didn't. And Crazy Cook 678 is here. And the rest of the gang, say hello if you haven't said hello, and we'll get back to you. Daniel Greco is here. 28 people watching at the moment. Welcome to the show, Godfrey.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.
You're hearing my audio, okay, right?
Yes. We're all good.
Okay, good.
So Godfrey, you every night as a member of the Yardbirds, you get to play some incredible music. I mean, music that I mean, some of your predecessors started the Holy Trinity in Clapton, Beck, and Page.
Right.
How does one step into that role and prepare for that role?
I mean, it kind of just happened naturally for me because when I started trying to play lead guitar as a youngster or whatever, I just had a good ear for picking up melodies, by ear, and so because I was able to learn all the little leads that were in the songs, the little lead guitar parts and the solos, I just became the lead guitarist of whatever band I was in, like in grammar school or whatever, and one of the very first guys that I really started listening to was Jimmy Page. And then after that, I got introduced to Eric Clapton by some friends. And then after that, I got introduced to Jeff Beck. And it was like, they were kind of like rooting against each other. Like, oh, you like Jimmy Page? You got to hear this guy, Eric Clapton. And then, oh, you like Eric Clapton? Wait till you hear Jeff Beck, what he does. So I kind of grew up listening to those three guys and learning their styles, learning all their songs, learning their styles. So when it came time to be asked to join the Yardbirds, I was kind of like, well, I I don't know the material. I don't know all those songs that they did, in the 60s, but I know how to play like the guys that were in those playing on those songs after the fact. So I just have to put that into practice. So in other words, if I was playing a song that had Jimmy Page on guitar, I would just simply play it the way I would think Jimmy Page would play this song, and Beck and Clapton, the same thing. So I couldn't have been more set up for a more perfect gig at this time in my life after I've done so many other things. To be asked to do this finally I was 62 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
When I was asked to finally join an authentic blues band for once, and I just had to learn the 20 songs that were in the show. I might have faked my way through For Your Love a couple of times in my career,
Sure.
but I had to go learn. I was getting in touch with the other guys in the band, just going, so what's this song now? What's this Smokestack Lightning? What's this? What's that? Oh, that's just, and then I would hear it, and it's just this blues riff that goes on for 10 minutes with all kinds of dynamics and rave ups and whatever else.
Sure.
So I'd go, oh, okay, I get it.
Now, did the British blues experience, did that happen for you early on? I mean, were you into British music early?
I skipped over it. If anything, we all got turned on to the Beatles as kids.
Sure. Right.
Because we were in the living room when Ed Sullivan came on, and whatever. And I knew a couple of friends of the family had daughters that were all playing all these Beatle albums all the time when I was over their house. So we all got that. But then I went right to like the Who's Tommy album,
Right.
or Led Zeppelin 2, stuff like that. So I came in after the fact, then getting turned on to Cream, Live Cream, and stuff like that. So I kind of skipped over the early British invasion. Yeah, we all heard Dave Clark 5 and the Kinks and all the stuff on the AM radio. You know what I mean? But at one point, you stopped listening to AM radio and you started listening to FM radio, where the later stuff happened. So I had to re-educate myself with the early British invasion stuff, early Who, early, Zeppelin. Before Zeppelin was Yardbirds, okay.
Yeah.
Dazed and Confused, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's great history.
Real quick, Joe DeMeo says hello, Godfrey.
Hey, yeah. How you doing, Joe? Nice to not see you.
Rob from Tessie Switch says, my cat is watching and loving you guys.
Oh, wow.
So hello to Tessie Switch's cat.
Thank you, Rob. Good to see you. So Godfrey, you from the Beatles, and you went. Where did you go from the Beatles? So you're
pretty much right to the Who. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you exactly. My father's from England. My father was born in London, and then raised in Ireland because his family worked with race horses, and they would always travel back and forth from England to Ireland for work back in those days. And my mom was from the island of Malta, which is in the Mediterranean Sea.
Sure.
So we would go every few years. We would go over to visit, relatives there. And my dad was into singing opera, and he used to like to go browsing for records of famous tenors and whatever, like rarities and stuff like that. So of course, whenever we would go overseas, especially London, he'd want to go browsing around for records, and I happened to see the Tommy album, and I just was looking at it, mesmerized by the cover, and then turn it around and start reading song titles and credits and who's in the band. And all of a sudden I see Peter Townsend, and I just went, "Hey, Dad, this guy's got the same name as us, or whatever." And for some reason, that kind of hit me a certain way, and we wound up buying the record and taking it home. That's how I got turned on to The Who, really, that's kind of the rest of it. I went right to classic rock. It wasn't called classic rock back then.
It was just rock.
It was just rock.
Yeah.
And then got turned on to all these other bands. That was still very early on. That was before high school. Already into Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin and Tommy by The Who and the Live at Leeds album and Who's Next. And, of course, then the Woodstock movie came out. Three record set, Jimi Hendrix, Alvin Lee, just crazy stuff for young kids to be just going crazy to. Isn't it?
So, where does the guitar? So you're falling in love with this music, and you're clearly on a path. Where does the musical journey start for you? And does it start on the guitar? Is the guitar the first instrument that you pursued?
Didn't. My mom played the piano. We didn't have one in the house, but friends of the family had one in their house, and my uncle had one when we went to visit in Malta. And I would just kind of sit at the piano and bang out melodies by ear of songs that I had heard on the radio or whatever. And an uncle of mine said to my mother, "Hey, he's got a pretty good ear. When you get back to the States, you should get a piano in the house and give him lessons." So I started playing piano. And then, of course, once the Beatles showed up, it was all over, right? Everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
And I said to my mother, can I take guitar lessons? And she was against it at first. She said to me, "Oh, guitar players are a dime a dozen."
It's not a proper instrument.
She isn't wrong.
Especially in like Nashville, every guitar player on every corner is amazing.
She was hoping that I would become a concert pianist. Imagine how out of work I'd be if I would have went for that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I actually started taking guitar lessons at the music school where I was taking piano lessons, and it was this old Italian guy showing me how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, like one note a week. Every week you learn a new note. And I was so bored, and it was not what I was looking to do. So we had like a little band with a couple of friends, and one of the guys, his father was in a wedding band, played bass in a wedding band, and he used to get fake books. With the wedding band. Remember fake books? So some guy goes out and buys all the sheet music of the popular songs of the moment, Xeroxes them all up, prints these bootleg books, and sells them for $5 to wedding band guys.
That's amazing.
So you can fake your way through a song on stage, right? And so this fake book had all of the popular songs that we were hearing on the radio with the little chord diagrams with the dots where your fingers go and everything.
Sure.
And that's how I taught myself to play guitar, by fake books and playing along with songs that I knew from the radio to fake books. And then, of course, picking up the little lead solos and stuff by ear.
All the nuances.
And that's how that all started. I taught myself by ear, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 years of piano lessons is all the music, formal music training that I have.
It's cool. Real quick, Papa Blue says, "I'm 62 and still jamming. Great to see Mr. Townsend still jamming. Thanks."
Yeah.
Susie Cherry says, "That paint job on the SG looks really cool." For everyone, we are definitely going to have a gear section tonight, a guitar gear section for a little while. So you're all going to be...
and we're going to answer all these questions.
Yes, we're going to answer all the questions. And just get ready for lots of show and tell tonight. And yes, I will show and tell this guitar a little later on as well. All right, Ty, pick it up.
No. Yeah, so Godfrey, you're so what was the first guitar adventure for you? So, and put us on the timeline. Like, what are you listening to at the time when you first start playing with other people or begin writing and composing your own material? Put us on the timeline.
Well, those are kind of two different periods. I started playing with other people very, very early on. I was still in grammar school, just going into high school, and playing school dances and things like that. And of course, we'd be playing all the stuff that we were just getting turned on to, some Led Zeppelin, Santana, Soul Sacrifice from the Woodstock movie, and all stuff like that is what we were doing. But by, I would say, somewhere around 1974, when I was, getting ready to graduate high school, is when I started listening to, writing some of my own stuff. And by the time I was out of high school, I had an original band called Alexis that used to play a club on Queens Boulevard called the Coventry. And Gene Simmons from Kiss, saw us playing there one night, heard us, and he wanted to talk to me after the show and gave me a whole big pep talk and a speech about what we were doing wrong and what we're doing right. And
of course,
and I was only 17 or something like that, so I was a bit full of myself at the time, and I just thought, who's this guy telling me, anything? I don't even like Kiss. I don't even know who they are really, but I know I wouldn't like them.
It's very funny.
Do you remember what he said to you? Do you remember?
Oh yeah. Oh sure. I mean, we had some really great originals, for at the time anyway. They were kind of prog rock sounding stuff. And
okay.
The one thing he said to me was, "Oh, you guys sound very British."
Good thing.
And right now, there's like a void in the industry for British bands. Beatles were breaking up. Zeppelin was really, not doing anything at the time, whatever. And then, of course, how we dressed on stage was his main criticism, because pretty much it was just jeans and black T-shirt, just like that. Your typical Pink Floyd kind of just hanging loose kind of stage attire or whatever. And he said to me, if you want to be a star, you got to dress like a star.
Mm-hmm.
You don't wear the same clothes on stage that you wear walking around in the street, And I just thought, well, I don't have any money for stage clothes and rock star clothes and stuff like that. So once I start making the money, then I'll be able to do that or whatever. But he wanted a demo, and of course we trying to decide how we're going to record this demo. It's going to cost us money. Where are we going to get this money from? I had suggested that we sell all of our equipment and we go into the studio, which is kind of funny. I was watching months ago when Tom Petty passed away. They were starting to play that 4-hour-long documentary about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on Netflix or something, and it was almost like parallel courses, because that's what happened to him. He went out to California, and then he comes back to Florida. They told him to come back. They want to bring the whole band, and they had no money and no nothing. They sold their gear. They all got in a van and went out to California, where they had 3 possible record deal offers or whatever, and just took a gamble. But needless to say, the guys in my band didn't want to take that gamble. So we kind of did a crappy sounding demo and submitted it and got the reject letter a month later or whatever. And it was a lot of that went on, and then I just started playing covers in bars, and mostly power trio stuff, Cream and Hendrix and Mountain and Johnny Winter and Beck Bogert and Appice and stuff like that,
Love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you're playing in a club. You're 17. Gene Simmons comes up and says, "Hey, you guys have this." He's kind of future casting for you, back in the mid 70s, talking about
Right.
your British influence and
Right.
how. So it was immediately recognizable that you guys were filling a void in the market early on. Whatever became of that band, Godfrey?
We kind of it was myself and another guitar player and a drummer bass player. So there was 4 of us, and I guess myself and the other guitar player had slightly different visions. And he wound up leaving and starting his own band, and that's how we became a power trio. So we started playing covers, and then I started working with other people and replaced a drummer, got in another drummer, replaced a bass player, got in another bass player, got another second guitarist, and really started working on writing material and recording it. We bought a couple of TAC 4-track reel-to-reels.
Boy, I remember those.
Yeah. I still have like 30 reel-to-reels sitting downstairs, and the
cool.
two machines, and I'm thinking about that's going to be another COVID project for me to kind of transfer that stuff over to digital.
Yeah.
And have all this material that I'd probably forgotten about. And there's about 2 or 3 albums worth of material that I want to record, and it's so old and outdated that it's back in vogue, actually, because so many bands are trying to sound retro and do the psychedelic rock kind of thing. I already got real stuff that I wrote back then that I want to record, so that'll be one of my projects probably, and so that band, then we kept looking for a 4th member, another guitar player, and we did some really good stuff, but the guys kept leaving. It wasn't working out for whatever reason, and eventually we put an ad in the Village Voice, and we got a hold of a guy who was more of like a 60s British pop singer-songwriter guy. So he was more of like a Tom Petty, Roger McGuinn kind of guy, 12-string Rick, singer-songwriter guy, and we were this kind of power pop trio behind him. And we used to play Gildersleeves. We got an offer to do some recording on spec at Electric Lady Studios. So we were there for a long time doing a bunch of stuff. That eventually fell apart. We brought in a lead singer. And again, we were in that place. Billy Squire was looking after us. He was, kind of ready to produce us. And then again was the void again when Zeppelin kind of broke up, and Billy Squire and people like that were starting to, fill the radio waves, wasn't it? People were still looking for that sound, and a lot of the bands were just disappearing. The old bands, So, yeah, that's kind of where it all took off from. And then after that was like 1982, 81, 82. I just got married, started having kids, and then had to go work at something, and wound up delivering refrigerators and air conditioners for about 15 years. But I worked for a small mom and pop kind of appliance store, and the boss was the coolest guy who would let me come in late if I had a gig the night before, leave early if I had a gig that night. Just gave me so many breaks. He's really like the guy who made it possible for me to continue to, pursue my music while I was raising a family and, putting food on the table, so.
Yeah. So Joe DeMeo asks in the chat, he says, please ask Godfrey how he feels about following in the footsteps of Jimmy, Eric, and Jeff, 3 of the biggest legends who ever played guitar.
it's an honor. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, of course.
I mean, at first, when I first got the phone call, I was out on tour already for the summer with the Happy Together tour. The woman who is a friend of mine who was managing the Yardbirds called me from the East Coast. I was on the West Coast, so it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm just having my first sip of coffee on the tour bus, and I get this call, and I'm being told that, you know, I'm managing the Yardbirds, and they'd like to replace, you know, they'd like to get a new guitarist. And she said, I just kept thinking of you. She had worked with me. She owned a booking agency, and that was the booking agency I used to book the Sons of Cream when I was doing that band with Ginger Baker's son and Jack Bruce's son. So she knew I could do the Clapton thing, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
she knew of my work as a musical director because her booking agency also booked half of the acts that were on the Happy Together tour. So she knew what my capabilities were and what my guitar chops were like. So she just said, you know, Jim keeps asking me, you know, if I know any guitar players, and I keep thinking of you. So I'm calling you. Would you be interested? And I was pretty much just taken in the band by Jim without even him having to hear me.
Wow.
It was one of those things where, you know, he just took it upon her word that this is the guy. And, you know, who knows? Maybe he scoured around on YouTube and whatever and heard a couple of clips of me playing or whatever. But it was pretty much more, he was taking her word that
Well,
she was saying,
that's pretty amazing.
there's a guy who that's what he eats for breakfast kind of
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? And he's got it covered. You know, it's just a matter of if you guys all get along, you know.
Yeah.
And Jim and I hit it off right off the bat on the phone, you know. And that was it. But it didn't sink in right away. You know what I mean? Because it just happened. My mom just passed away. My dog passed away that summer. So I was kind of just all in a head place where I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a year off. I'm just going to take a year off. I'm not going to think of nothing until next summer when I got to come back out on this Happy Together tour. I take a year off. And then I get offered this gig. And I go, well, I'd have to be crazy to pass that up, no? And as I was telling other people during the course of the day or over the next couple of days, they were all going, wow, man, that's your dream gig. That's your dream come true gig. And the more they were saying that to me, the more I was going, yeah, I guess so, isn't it? You know, like I hadn't really realized that myself, that just the prestige of being in that position, you know, and being told like, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to cover, you know. And, you know, the fact is, all three of them were nowhere near as good as they became after. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's an awesome observation. Yeah.
You know what I mean? All three of them were just getting their chops going, just starting to kind of like figure out who they were. And there's three different styles there completely. You know, Clapton's the purest blues guy who sticks to the program. You know, Beck is he's from another planet guy, just pulling all sorts of stuff out of his hat.
That's right.
And just amazing people would like, really? That's the note you chose? And then Page is this other guy who's just producer, brilliant dude, you know, who was more of a session guy. And he actually turned him down when they first asked him to
I
join.
didn't know that.
Yeah, because he was making a few times more money as a session guitar player than they were willing to pay him to tour with them. So he went, I'd love to, mates, but the money's not right. And that's when he offered the gig to Jeff. He said, but I have another friend who might be interested, and that's how Jeff Beck got the gig.
Right.
And then later on, I guess Page must have gotten tired of the studio session stuff, because then he was really wanting to come join the band. And they already had Jeff in the band. And as Jim McCarty, as I heard him tell it one day on a phoner interview in the van on the way to a gig, he was telling the interviewer, so at one point, Jimmy was so keen to join the band that he was willing to even come in on bass because Paul Samuel Smith left the band. And Chris Drea, the other guitar player, was playing bass. So Jimmy came in, played bass at first. Chris played guitar with Jeff. And then it didn't make sense to have Jimmy Page on bass and Chris Drea on guitar. So they swapped around. And then it was Jeff and Jimmy both at the same time at one point. And then Jeff, they threw Jeff out, actually.
Let's stay on Page for a minute, because you have a very interesting Led Zeppelin experience, and I think it might have been the second time you saw Zeppelin, where the stars just kind of aligned and made a lot of things possible. Can you share that story with all?
I mean, it's crazy. Would you read it on my website?
I did, yes.
We do our homework. Do our homework.
Yeah. So.
It was so amazing, I actually had to read it twice.
Yeah. I mean, I had already seen Zeppelin once. It was my first concert, and I believe that was 1970. And then my girlfriend and I were huge Zeppelin fans, and we saw a sign in the local record store window, 2 Led Zeppelin tickets for sale, inquire within kind of thing. And of course, we knew the guys because we were in there all the time. So we ran in there. We want them. We want them. We want the tickets. Can you hold them for us? And we went around doing errands for people and grubbing money and finding bottles and cans and, bringing them back for the deposit. And we got the money, came back and bought the 2 tickets. And of course, they were face value orchestra seats. For Madison Square Garden, they cost $7.50 each.
Oh my goodness!
So it was $15 for 2 second row in the orchestra seats for Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden in 1971.
Can you believe this, Dave? Can you believe
insane? $15.
$15.
Yeah, I'd buy 100. I'd buy 200 tickets for that.
To be 5 feet away from Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
I mean, second row in the orchestra right there. So much that you had to kind of, tilt your head up to see onto the stage. That's how close we were. Because you know how tall the stage is at the Garden.
Yeah, sure.
And of course, as soon as they came out, everyone just got up and ran up to the stage. So we were all like this now on the stage, And of course, the stage is built with some kind of scaffolding and some things or whatever. And I kind of had my legs wrapped around something, and I was like just leaning on the stage. And there were so many people on the stage. By almost the end of the concert, the front of the stage collapsed.
Wow.
The whole thing just collapsed. And of course, wedge monitors are rolling off into the audience, whatever's going on. And I climbed up onto the stage and just sat on a road case right in the wings and just watched Page for the rest of the show from
Lord.
10 feet away. I was 15 years old. So that if that's not gonna pave the way for your dreams as a 15-year-old guitar player kid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Godfrey, normally I wouldn't really ask this question. Papa Blue asked this question. He said, not to be nosy, but do you make more for the studio work that you do, more money, or doing gigs? Average people don't know this kind of stuff.
All right, so that's all relative to who you are and what kind of work you are actually doing. I actually don't do a lot of studio work. Um, there's so many guys that are so just set up to do that stuff that, it's like everything else. There's a click, and once you get into that click, you kind of get all the gigs. So I'm more of the touring kind of a musician that gets all those gigs. Like once in a while, someone will comment on one of my Facebook posts when I put up a Throwback Thursday picture of me playing with Dave Mason or whoever, and he'll go, "How do you get all these great gigs?" And it's really just once you fall into a circle of people, it's really like a word of mouth thing. Like I pretty much ever since the Entwistle gig, kind of stepping stones from one gig to another, not too far away from each other,
Yeah.
So session work pays pretty well, but so does touring work if you're on the right level of touring. If you're 8 guys in the back of a van touring, paying all your own stuff, you're lucky to go home with a few $100, you know what I mean, or whatever. But if you're traveling on a tour bus with a pretty major summer tour or something like that, and you've got 10 weeks of steady work, I have to say that's been my gravy money for the last 10 years, is being out on that tour all summer. Kind of allows me to do with the rest of my year whatever comes along, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
And also musical director gets a little bit more money as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot about the session work stuff. There are people who make a living doing sessions and doing lessons. They make very good living. Perhaps better than me.
Yeah. So I have a little story for you, Godfrey.
Uh-huh.
I've told you this off camera, but the first time that I actually met you, you were playing at this little bar called Cano's in on Long Island here, and I brought in my J200. I had a J200 at the time, Gibson, big jumbo guitar, and you happened to have yours. I think you were doing an acoustic jam at the time. So I opened up my case and we said hello to each other, and I got up and played Behind Blue Eyes with you, and it was one of the best things that had happened to me up to that date, to play with you. It was a long time ago, and what a cool time to play a Who song with you.
Yeah, sure.
And both of us had 2 blonde J200s
Wow.
on stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty incredible. I think you still have yours, yes?
I don't have my blonde one anymore. The neck went south on it.
That's what we were talking about, yes. Yeah.
And I had, tried to get in touch with people. A friend of mine named Daryl worked for Gibson doing their repairs. He had a look at it. He said, it's going to be hard. I don't know if we can fix this neck. May have to send it back to Gibson. They may replace the neck on it. Imagine to replace the neck on a J200.
Sure.
And sent it out to them, and they said, nope, it's a goner. We'll send you a replacement. And I went, okay, that works too.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was after 10 years of owning this guitar. So
Right.
that's a pretty good lifetime warranty,
I'd say.
They said, but we don't have any blondes right now. You have to wait about a month or so. So I can send you a vintage Sunburst one right now. And I went, strike while the iron is hot, And so I have a vintage Sunburst one now as well.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah. And I also had another just acoustic one.
Uh-huh.
No electronics.
No electronics, yeah.
And this was around the time when I had a really good rapport with Gibson out in Montana. The Bozeman, Montana is the acoustic guitar division, right?
Yeah.
And there was a guy out there that I used to call him up for stuff, and he would just go, what's your address? And I would just, oh, really? Okay. And
Sounds like a good friend.
I would say.
At one point, we were on tour with Jack Bruce, and Jack Bruce said to me, "Man, I'd love a great, nice, big jumbo acoustic that I can just sit on my couch at home and play and write songs with." And I went, "I can get you one." And he goes, "You can, man?" And I went, "Yeah, sure, I can get you one." And he goes, "That'd be great, man." And so I called up this guy and I went, "Hey, Jack Bruce and I, we both need."
Awesome. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's
And they sent me 2 more vintage Sunburst J200s, no electronics.
Uh-huh.
And I brought it over to Jack when it was John Entwistle's memorial service was going on in Trafalgar Square at St. Martin in the Fields. And I brought it over there for Jack. And he said, if you come through, I'll give you one of my basses. And I went, no problem.
Wow.
So we took a train out to where he lived from Victoria Station or whatever. He came and picked us up at the train station, gave him the guitar. He gave me one of his Warwick thumb basses.
Nice.
Signed it for my son because my son was just picking up bass at that time. Mm-hmm. And I have that right upstairs at the top landing of this staircase, sitting on a stand. Yeah.
Nice. So John BL5150 says, Godfrey, can you tell us about working with John Entwistle?
Yes, I can. It was very loud.
As it should be.
I can imagine. Yes.
You know, as a matter of fact, his bass rig, we used to call it Little Manhattan because it looked like the Manhattan skyline. And it was just, it was double the rig he used with the Who at the Garden.
Wow.
So imagine that after we had toured a bunch of rock clubs across the United States with him, then later on that year, he was playing the Garden with the Who using half of the rig that he was using with us on tour. So the John Entwistle Band was more of like a boys' night out bowling for John because it could be his band. He called the songs. He played as loud as he wanted. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yes. So basically, on the stage, the half of the stage was John Entwistle, and the other half was the rest of the band.
Yeah, some of the clubs, definitely his bass rig had more power and speakers than the house system. Yeah. And so after the first tour, we were having an end of tour little get together shindig at some place in the city. I think Lezink or somewhere like that. And a few of my friends were there, and we're all sitting around with John and having a drink and talking and laughing and whatever. And so they said to John, "So, what do you think? What do you think of our friend Godfrey? What do you think of him as a guitar player and a singer?" And John just looked at them and said, "I don't know. I haven't heard him yet."
So, Godfrey, you are so intentional about how you reproduce certain material. I've noticed, like with the Yardbirds, you're very intentional, right down to the gear, the presentation, if you will, about how you present everything. When you're playing with John, what were you playing and what were you playing through?
Okay, so I started out with the Paul Reed Smith Custom 24. Of course, I needed a second guitar for certain songs like The Real Me and John Entwistle's song Had Enough from the Who Are You album, where there's got to be a capo on the 3rd fret, for those songs to play them authentically in the keys that they're recording it in. So I had my Paul Reed Smith, which was a new instrument for me at the time. I had just gotten it from Paul, and it was really like it didn't take long to get used to because it was like the difference between sitting in a beat up Nova or getting into a friggin' Lexus. You know, and everything is just contoured to your body and right where it's supposed to be. So this PRS Custom 24 was like, wow. I was even like, I'm not going to take this to bars, you know, and play bar gigs with this guitar. But I was using a Paul Reed Smith, and I was using my Fool SG for the capo guitar. And then Paul Reed Smith gave me another, like a McCarty, which I used then in place of that. Amplifiers, John and I were at a NAMM show. The year we were going to be going out on tour, that same Christmas or whatever, January. And he said to me, what kind of amps do you want to use? You know, because he was going to get them for me, whatever. And I went, well, I've always been a Marshall guy. And he went, come on. And we went to Marshall, and something was going on there, like maybe Slash was making an appearance or something like that. And it was just crazy. We couldn't get anybody's attention, you know. And so we stood there for 15. I'm standing at Marshall for 15 minutes with John Entwistle of The Who, waiting to speak to an artist relation guy about an endorsement for our tour. And no one's paying attention to him. And I saw he was kind of getting a little, And he went, follow me. And we went over to High Watt. And next thing I know, 2 High Watt stacks are being delivered to my house, you know, when we got home. They weren't really my sound, though, you know. A little too clean and punchy for me. So I used them for the first part of the tour with overdrives and things like that, or whatever, you know, whatever I had to do to get my sound. And then later on, I wound up using Trace Elliott amps because John was using their power amps in his rig. So he said, you want Trace Elliott amps? And they were pretty nice, bluesy sounding tube heads, you know. 4 of them just weren't designed very well. And crazy thing was, so the tubes are sitting like this in the head, right? They're four tubes sitting like that. And I had borrowed a guitar coffin from Ace Frehley at the time, from Ace Frehley, because I didn't own one at the time. And so the roadies would put the heads in the case, put the guitars next to them, 4 of them, four heads, and then they'd put the case into the truck and stand it up on its side. So now the heads are going down the road on their sides. And the tubes are going bang, 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 down the road.
Yeah.
So every show, another head would just blow up on me, you know. So I kind of found them to be a little unreliable. And then I switched to line 6. Which was, everybody was like, oh my God, blasphemy or whatever, you know, how horrible. But, you know, I kept it on the 1 setting for plexi and used some of the very convenient chorus and delay effects, built-in wah-wah on the pedal board controller. And I had 2 heads. I never had to turn the second one on in however many years, you know, because it's a solid state piece of gear. It's like a pod with a solid state power amp attached to it, you know. Not good amp if you're going to go play on stage with some guys that have a couple of twin reverbs and stuff. You're going to get lost in the sauce. They just disappear, you know. So
Janice Lala asks if you have any stories about Keith Relf.
I don't really have any stories about Keith Relf because I never met him. You know, and you know, I know Jim was pretty close with him, and Jim was pretty, you know, lost after Keith died. You know.
Now Keith is the original guitar player from the Yardbirds. Singer.
He was the singer,
but
and he played
guitar.
harp. He played harp.
Oh, harp. Okay.
That was Keith.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Forgive me for not knowing that.
But we have a guy named John Iden, who I actually made Facebook friends with him several years ago before I was asked to join the band. And I had completely forgotten that he was in the Yardbirds. So he plays some really nice guitar as well. He's got a beautiful 59 reissue Les Paul, and he has that Jeff Beck, Keith Relf vibe, his look and everything, and he sings amazing. He really pulls off that whole vibe of Keith Relf. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like you were saying about doing something authentically, trying to pursue it. I just see it as a vibe. You know what I mean? And if I need to play something that I'm trying to recreate something, a vibe that was caught on a record or on a live album or whatever, I try to. It's a visual thing for me as well. So to be playing the same guitar is an important thing for me because it's like I'm working with the same tool. So if he got these sounds out of this guitar, I need to be able to wrangle them out of it as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then I'm doing my job, you know what I mean? Like the way that it was done, originally done,
Yeah.
All right, since you went there, I've got to ask, because the reviews of you do, and you mentioned this a little while ago, that when they approached you about the Yardbirds, they knew you could do the Clapton thing, I think is what you just said. Yeah. And the reviews of you doing the Clapton thing are just off the chart good. I mean, the videos speak for themselves.
Thank you.
So how do you... There's so many different eras of Clapton. So you've got the Yardbirds era, you've got the Cream era, which you're more than qualified to do, and then you've got the solo era of Clapton. How do you approach each era of him as an artist?
Again, it's a vibe. You got a vibe to begin with. Then the instruments that he was using at the time, whatever effects he might have been delving into or whatever, it's nice to have a Clapton Strat with the tone expander and the maybe the lay sensor pickups to do the Journeyman era stuff with. To have to do for the Derek and the Dominoes era, you're going to want that two-tone Sunburst Strat with the maple neck with some really nice scratchy kind of trebly Strat pickups in there, for that sound. The Cream era and the Blind Faith era, he was using, the Firebird or the 335 or the SG or Les Pauls or, whatever. So you need that, and Marshalls, So the Yardbirds era, I don't think Clapton was there yet. He was playing a red.
He was playing a Telly, right?
He was playing that red Telly that Giorgio Gamelski was the manager of the band.
Yeah.
And he owned it or something. And so if you were in the band and you needed a guitar, here's the one you're going to play. So it's a Fiesta Red 60s Strat Telly with the rosewood neck. Yeah.
I think it was a slab board. I think it was a 60 or 61.
And then, through a Vox AC30, that's got to be deadly. You know what I mean? Like brash kind of sound, brash sounding, There's even pictures where he's playing a Jazzmaster or a Jaguar. Was Chris Drea's Jaguar, and Chris is playing the Telly. There's certain pictures you see of Chris playing a dot marker 335 Cherry, and then you see Clapton playing it in a couple of the old. He wasn't with the band that long,
Yeah, right.
Like by the time they were releasing For Your Love in 1965, he was leaving the band already.
Mm-hmm.
The day it came out, he was walking. He wasn't happy with it. He thought they were too commercial. So he went off to play with the Blues Breakers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see one of those back in your corner there.
Yeah, I got such a deal on that amp, boy. Someone called me from Georgia and said, "Hey, my friend's got a music store and he's got this Blues Breaker combo, and he's selling it for $1,300.
Oh,
And I went,
goodness.
how do I pay for it right now? I didn't even think, how am I getting it home from Atlanta, Georgia? And it's so funny that a friend of mine was there going to see Aerosmith, and he said, "Oh, I'll pick it up for you," but he lived in Florida, so now it's going further away because he's taking it to Florida with him.
Right.
And then another friend had a buddy who was driving up from Florida, from Pompano Beach, and he lived out in Long Island, and he drove it all the way up from Florida for me.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
So I paid nothing for shipping. I gave the guy a couple of tickets to Happy Together for him and his wife, and I got that amp for $1,300. And go to Sweetwater; it's $32.99.
Wow.
Good for you.
A 30-watt combo is $32.99. Who
Says Marshall on it.
Yeah, I looked them up because at one point I went, how much am I going to get into this authentic gear thing? Yeah. Well, got to play this amp. And you know what? I can't even turn it past 2.
Sure.
It shakes the building. And they said Clapton
dimed it
in the studio. And I'm like, yeah, really? Where were the rest of the guys? Across the street?
Yeah, of course. But and his name does end in Clapton. So
yeah,
he's allowed to do that. Brian Davies in the chat says there's a story, there's one of those stories that goes around that after the Yardbirds, Jimmy created the new Yardbirds, which was basically Led Zeppelin. Is that a true story?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he was taking the band. Right? Yeah. They were under some it's always some contractual stuff that they were contracted to do so many more gigs or whatever. So he had to call his new band the New Yardbirds or whatever, something like that, But Jim McCarty and Keith Relf actually went on to form the band Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
Remember them?
Yep.
I never knew that until I joined this band. That was the history of it. And yeah, Page just went on and did Zepp, and it was session guys. John Paul Jones was another session guy, and Terry Reid was supposed to be the singer.
Oh wow, great guitar player.
Yeah, Terry Reid was supposed to be the singer, but he had gotten an offer to open for the Stones with his own band, so he thought that was going to be a better prospect for the future for him. So he passed on it. You know what I mean? But yeah, they were originally the New Yardbirds, and some of the songs. I mean, John Iden, who is the singer from the Yardbirds that I told you about, turned me on to a song. It was an old Yardbirds song, and it's exactly the song "Tangerine" from the Zeppelin 3.
Really?
It's like the same song, different lyrics, same chords, same guitar solo, that singing guitar solo. It's the same song.
Wow. Real quick, Fender Guru says, congrats on 1K subs to Dave Nesdall. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for subscribing to the show.
Yeah.
If you have any friends that haven't subscribed to the show, or if you're watching here today and you haven't, please do. Please subscribe to the show.
Thanks to all you for sharing the link, Dave.
Yes. We'll be having giveaways as the weeks go on, and the only way to win the giveaways is to be a subscriber. So please subscribe.
I have a YouTube channel too. Can I plug it?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm only up to about 400 subscribers, and I need a 1K to start doing the business that I want to start doing on there, And there's lots of videos of me performing with all the different people that I've worked with, and the Clapton show in its entirety is on there. You can watch it, and I mean, you can do it. You don't have to subscribe to watch anything, but it'd be nice if you could,
Yeah, please, everyone. It just takes a second, but don't do it until the show's over.
Right.
As soon as the show's over, go to Godfrey's channel and subscribe to him, please.
Well, you go to Godfrey's channel and you learn so much. You know, you learn a lot of lessons about just about composure, performance, tone, respect, the way this man respects the material that he's
That's
playing.
the thing, yeah.
It's really amazing.
You know, isn't it? You know, when you hear like a burning guitar solo, whether it's a Stevie Ray Vaughan, Texas Flood, or Dave Gilmour, Comfortably Numb, or you just go, okay, it's more than just learning notes.
Yes, it is.
There's a fire there, and that fire is coming from some pain, some sadness, some anger, some all kinds of different things that made that guy who he was when he was recording that solo. So to be able to tap into that energy, that's the real thing I think about being a lead guitarist who's gonna do stuff like this or whatever. And then you make it your own when you do your own thing. So I remember reading in a Guitar Player magazine years ago an article with Richie Blackmore, and he said, just steal from everybody. And that's a really good piece of advice, because if you just steal from one guy, then you just become a clone of that guy.
Sure.
But if you steal from everybody, then it becomes like a melting pot of all these great guitar players. You know what I mean? So I've learned from Page, Beck, and Clapton, Hendrix, Johnny Winter,
Oh yeah.
Rick Derringer, Dave Gilmour, Robin Trower, Leslie West, guys like that. I mean, that's before you even started getting into, Blackmore as well,
Sure.
All these guys were just blazing.
What'd you think of Kossoff?
Of course, I think Clapton even envied his vibrato. Try to play that solo to All Right Now.
It's easy. The notes are easy, but
The
the vibe
notes,
is not.
what you gotta
The vibe is not.
scream them. Yeah, I've actually played it with Simon Kirk a few times.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
It's very cool.
yeah.
So Godfrey, when you were, I definitely want to get into Clapton as Godfrey, because I thought that was so creative. But can we talk about the Cream? Can we talk about the Cream thing first? Because you were, I mean, Jack Bruce came to you and said, you're my guy. I want to. So all of this is being recognized that you are this fully formed musician steeped in this style, which Gene Simmons told you in '74 was being lost. That there was a vacancy for. So tell us about Cream, how you approach Cream as a musician, and then how you prepare for something like that. I mean, they really were the world's first supergroup, right?
Yeah, or so they were dubbed anyway. I can just remember getting turned on to this stuff being a freshman in high school, and a bass player friend of mine named Charles Gozer was a neighborhood guy, and he was into Jack Bruce. And our drummer kind of liked Ginger Baker as well. So it kind of worked nice that we were like a trio, and we were starting to, the albums we were listening to were Goodbye Cream and Live Cream. So Live Cream was a totally live album. Goodbye Cream had half a studio album and half a live album. It was their last album under contract, and they had to do one side of just, their own material. And on that album, there was 3 studio songs. One was Badge, that Clapton wrote with George Harrison. Doing That Scrapyard Thing, which was a Jack Bruce tune. And, oh God, what was the Ginger Baker one? Not Do What You Like, the other one. What a Bring Down.
Okay.
Was a Ginger Baker written song. So those were the 3 studio cuts. And then the other side of the album was all live. And it had Sitting on Top of the World and NSU and I'm So Glad. And so these 12-minute long versions of I'm So Glad, where Clapton is playing, pretty much every riff that he knows, isn't it? They're just stretching out, and they're doing this thing where pretty much the concept of Cream was you start playing a song, and then you go off into a thing, and you go wherever you go, and then you come back to the song again at the end.
Cream was famous for that. They were every song was like that.
So, and what's funny is that even the Yardbirds have the same concept, only they call it a rave up. So at first, Jim McCarty would say to me, yeah, well, we do a couple of verses, and then we go into a rave up. And then we do a rave up, and then we come back. And I would go, what do you mean, like we have a party? I didn't know what it meant, so I was educated about that as well. So Yardbirds refer to it as a rave up. Cream went off into this thing. And if you listen to the live version of I'm So Glad, that's on maybe Wheels of Fire or maybe the live Cream album, it's 12 minutes long. And you're going to hear every lick that Clapton knew up to that moment, that he could play at halftime, he can chop it up, he can play it backwards, whatever. It's basically like speaking a language to learn someone's guitar style, isn't it? Because when you learn a language, you start off by learning a word here, a word there. How do you say door? How do you say window? How do you say floor? And then, okay, now you're going to learn a phrase.
That's a really interesting analogy. I've had this instrument in my hands for a long time. I've never heard it described any better than that right there.
Yeah.
It's like a language.
A perfect layman language.
Where is the bathroom? You learn so many phrases, and when you learn that so many phrases, now you're speaking Italian, or now you're speaking German, or whatever. So Clapton and Gilmore and Trower and whoever else, they have their signature phrases that they're always going to default to.
I think every guitar player does. Doesn't
Right.
matter whether you're famous or not famous.
So all
Every
you got to
guitar
do is learn their language. Take those signature licks that you hear over and over again in all their solos, and you learn each one of them. And then you go, okay, play like Jimmy Page. And then you just start playing those licks that you memorized of Page's, and you're playing like Jimmy Page, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's such great advice.
So, Bo Zeke in the chat says, "I'm interested what Godfrey thinks of these newer blues rock players now that it's really popular, like Joe Bonamassa, Eric Gales, Gary Clark, Derek Trucks, etc., and players like that."
I gotta say,
Derek Trucks, he's just from another planet.
I gotta say right off, Derek Trucks is my. I just couldn't believe where'd this kid come from, because amazing slide playing, of course. Freaking Dwayne Allman and Dickie Betts were his uncles or whatever. You know what I mean? So amazing slide playing, totally tasty slide playing and authentic sounding. But when he plays regular guitar,
just as good, right?
Amazing stuff.
Good Lord.
And I remember just hearing him play on one of the Clapton Crossroads festivals, taking a solo on Any Day or something like that. And I just went, wow, amazing. Bonamassa, of course, is totally amazing, but he's a guy who he don't know he wants to be Clapton or Eric Johnson. He's got to be one of those two Erics. I'm Eric Johnson. I'm Eric Clapton. He's a totally amazing guitar player. And he's really coming into his own, isn't he?
Yeah, not only is he fantastic. I mean, he's probably one of the most one of the, I hate saying best, but one of the best guitar players of today.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
But the other part of his his vibe that I really love, and that I'm sure everyone loves, is that it's the show is the guitars that he brings on the road with him. That's the show, because
Well-
he's bringing 58 flying V, real 58 flying V's on the show. He's bringing 2 or 3 bursts on the show. He's bringing two 54 Strats and 2
The
Black
Firebird.
Martellis.
Yeah.
And he's bringing all these. His insurance has got to be out of the roof.
He's got a better collection than me. I gotta.
Well, I mean, and those are just his road guitars.
Right.
Then he has a collection at home of the cleanest versions of every one of those
Right,
guitars.
right.
It's just his guitar changes alone is the show.
Yeah.
And then you're blessed with, oh my God, the band is amazing. The songs are amazing. His voice is getting better. I mean, he kind of sounds like Kermit the Frog, but at least he sings on key.
His
You know?
songwriting wasn't as good before. It's
yes.
getting better.
Getting
You know what
better,
I mean?
yes.
The songs weren't memorable.
Right.
When I used to first listen to him, I'd go, well, songs aren't really memorable. When he was in that band with Glenn Hughes and they were
Right.
doing some stuff, then it was kind of cool. But
Man, I love that band. I wish we had more from that band. Black Country Communion. Yeah.
he was very young when he started, you know what I mean? And there was a guy that used to own a recording studio in New York City called Unique Recording, Bobby Nathan.
I know Bobby Nathan very
So
well.
Bobby Nathan ran a jam at, all over the city. It moved about 5 times while I was still a part of it. But it used to be in a place called the Dark Star Lounge or the Triad up on 72nd Street. And I used to go there every Monday night when I was in town. And Bobby would get me up with Joe to play together.
So funny. I'm
Joe
so
was
glad.
like a young kid. You know
I'm
what I
so
mean?
glad you mentioned Bobby Nathan, because
Yeah.
I was on my phone today trying to get more guests for our show, and Bobby Nathan's phone number came up. I was like, I should call him.
He's
I
awesome.
should call him. And I didn't yet, but I'm going to call him tomorrow.
Right. I mean, he ran that jam for decades, and I never saw him get mad at anybody.
Nope. He doesn't get frustrated. He
I
doesn't.
never saw him lose.
And when you see him play,
Yeah.
he could be having the most furious day, but he is just calm as a cucumber. He
Yeah,
plays his
yeah.
licks and he plays his songs,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have a mad. His face doesn't look angry. He always has this, like he's in the zone. He's always in, and he's just, man, what a great musician.
There was
Great
two.
musician.
There was 2 cover albums that Joe Lynn Turner did, and my bass player that I was working with at the time was producing some of Bonamassa's early albums. He was trying to get him signed and all kinds of stuff at the very beginning. So I wound up playing on one of Joe Lynn Turner's albums, and I think Bonamassa was either on the one I was on or the first one. There was they were called Undercover and Undercover 2. And there was a bunch of different guys, Vernon Reed, Leslie West, Rick Derringer, guys like that, Jeff
Cool.
Golub, yeah.
Awesome. Anyone in the chat, if you have questions for Godfrey, please ask. We'll do our best to get to all of them.
It's
In
funny,
fact-
I've got the feed running behind me.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at my laptop, but on my big screen, I see the feed and it's running a little behind whatever we're doing or something.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm watching and I'm like, I got hands like an Italian guy, don't I? When
That's all good.
I'm seeing all this going on while I'm looking down at you.
That's all.
So
good.
someone's got a question.
Yeah, there was an interesting comment made earlier, and the chat. You'll have to remind me who made the comment, but I thought it was so telling. It said, the Yardbirds are responsible for my vintage gear obsession and my vintage tone obsession, because they sounded great. I mean, really, they really started this rolling this boulder down the hill, didn't they? I mean, there's so much to learn from those records.
They insisted at first, they had suggested that I use Vox, and I never even owned one. And I went, well, you know what, guys? Playing in a brand new band, playing 20 brand new songs that I've never played before. I'd rather not be using a brand new amp that I never played out of before as
Sure.
well.
Sure.
So I said, I can get you what you want out of a Marshall. And I used that little Marshall combo, which is the older, it's a DSL 401. It's kind of like the dual super lead head.
Sure, but 40
it's
watts.
It's a 40-watt version with 112. Now, my sound is a Marshall half stack. That's what I'm used to using. The big difference. There's a big difference between 4 12-inch speakers on the floor and one 12-inch speaker floating in the air, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure
There's
is.
a difference between how much air is being pushed, how much kick and bottom you're hearing. So, but I did the first tour with that, and they were really happy because their other guitar player played really, really loud. So the sound man would go, I would go, how's my stage volume? And he would go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm hearing this question.
Yeah, especially these days.
Yeah. Because to me, as long as I can hear myself on stage, I know you're putting me in the house when I need to be. You know what I mean? So I don't have to be taking everybody's head off, you know.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat, just be advised, Desiree Dornan has put Godfrey's links up in the chat for you to click on. Make sure you subscribe to Godfrey Townsend, his YouTube channel. It is now in the chat. Just look out for that.
Thank you, Desiree.
Desiree's my fiance, by the way.
Oh, your fiance.
Yeah. My fiance.
She's lovely.
Fiance.
She's the lovely
Your lovely
Desiree Dornan.
fiance.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
Yeah.
Bit Tom asked, Godfrey, what is your favorite guitar to play at home while you're sitting on the couch?
Jack Bruce's J200.
Oh, of course.
No, actually, while I'm sitting on the couch, I have a nice little Taylor acoustic that I bought from, Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry, we had him on the show.
I've met Larry. I've had some inspiring conversations with Larry.
Larry refrets all my guitars. I do guitar repairs, and when I can't repair one of my guitars, I take it to him.
I was almost going to wear a Larry
Fitzgerald guitars.
Fitzgerald guitars T-shirt today too.
Well, if you have one, I would wear one. He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy and he's very good. So he was selling it at the Guitar Expo that they have in Freeport every summer. So he was selling some guitars, and I just went over to it and went, "Brang! Wow, how much?" Because it just sounded amazing. So it's because it's a nice small guitar. It plays really nice, but it has some good bottom to it as well. So, of course, I probably more enjoy just sitting there strumming a J200.
Who wouldn't?
When you're sitting on the couch, right?
Sure.
But the J200 is not as much of a finger-picking kind of guitar. You kind of want to be playing Pinball Wizard on it or something.
I'm surprised you don't have an Eric Clapton Martin, like a 0028 type.
I don't own any Martins at all. And a friend of mine named Sean Baker loaned me his Martin, and he said, "Hey, I got a Martin. If you've never played one, I'm going to bring one to your next gig." I was doing a solo acoustic gig at a place in Forest Hills on a Thursday night, like once a month, and he brought this Martin, and I went, "Okay, wow, pretty nice, a little beat up." And he went, "Yeah, it's a beat up version, but I gave it to test." All right, I went, "All right, Martin." So I played Fire and Rain. Nice.
That's the sound.
Nice. There you go. Then I played maybe a Clapton song. Maybe I played Change the World or something. And I went, wow, okay, there you go. It's good for that. And then I played a Pete Townsend song, and it still held up for everything that you wanted out of it. Nice bottomy bass notes and, chimey kind of chords and stuff. And he went, take it home if you want, keep it for a couple of weeks or whatever. And I took it home, and I went, I really like this guitar. I wonder what model it is, and I looked it up, and it was like a $12,000 Martin.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went, dude, get over here and get this guitar out of my house. But it was a great, maybe a D45.
Oh yeah, that's the guitar I have.
DV 45 with all the nice
Yeah, D45.
The inlay all around the around the neck and around the sound hole and everything, but just a really great acoustic. I even used it on one of the Clapton shows, but it's probably not the very last one, but the one before that. I'm using it on stage for that. Yeah,
sure.
But
Probably sounded amazing.
Yeah, you know what? And of course, the Beatles did the whole White Album on Martins, didn't they?
There it is.
In India.
Yeah. Godfrey, what's your Beatles record? What's your one record?
If I really had to, I'd have to say the White Album.
Okay.
Just because it was so chock full of things. And While My Guitar Gently Weeps is on there. You know what I mean? So that's a biggie for me. Although I really, really like the Rubber Soul album and Revolver albums as well, because that was their turning period, wasn't it? When they really started. We're going to do
my record. Revolver is my record. Yeah. What's your record, Dave? What's your Beatles record?
My Beatles record is Revolver.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Desiree has a question. She says, if I may ask, what is the guitar at the on the right at the beginning of the staircase? And I'm going to say she's saying that because I have the same one sitting here in front of me. So
is it really?
Yeah.
That one over there?
No. The Fool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's a Fool. Replicated paint job. That was originally done by Marijke, was one of the 4 Dutch artists who call themselves the Fool, as an art collective of painters who did a lot of the Beatles stuff. They did the Apple Boutique on Carnaby Street. Mm-hmm. They did a few other things. They did Jack Bruce's 6-string bass. They designed lots of clothes. So that was basically originally what? A 64?
64 SG that was repainted.
An SG standard that Clapton bought. And then they had them all painted, Right. Mm-hmm. And then Todd Rundgren wound up with it.
Yep.
And Todd Rundgren wound up with it after Jackie Lomax sold it to him. So check this story out. The guitar was left with Jackie Lomax. Clapton left it with George Harrison. George Harrison had signed Jackie Lomax to Apple Records, and they were recording an album, a Jackie Lomax album, and 3 of the 4 Beatles were on it, and Clapton played on it. He left the full guitar with George. George loaned it to Jackie, said, "You're going to need a guitar, man, if you're going to go out and tour here." And then Jackie, the story from Jackie was that he had pawned it to Todd. There you go. Pawned it to Todd because he was a little down on his luck and he needed a couple of months' rent. So that was the story that Jackie told me. And then when he went to get it back from Todd, Todd said, "No, you sold that to me.
Yeah.
You can't have it back. I put all this money into it." It was in horrible shape or whatever when he got it. And he had some work done on it. Mm-hmm. And then Todd told me, he came back for it 11 years later.
Oh, yeah.
After I had done all this work on it or whatever. So that was the story behind that.
So
it's amazing. It's amazing paint job. I actually have a pair of Seymour Duncan antiquities in there that Seymour custom wound for me personally.
That's nice.
Because when I got the Cream gig, the Sons of Cream gig, I messaged him and I said, so what do you suggest? I'm trying to get that authentic Cream tone for this gig I have coming up with Ginger's son and Jack's son to put in my Fool. And he said, I'd like to custom wind you a couple of antiquities. So that's what's in there.
Beautiful.
And
I need to
great.
give a shout out. I need to give a shout out to my partner in my guitar building, Nick Amendolora. He painted this guitar.
Really?
Yeah. He actually paints. He'll do replicas of Rembrandts and like real paintings. He does replicas. He paints replicas of everyone's guitars, and he does an amazing job. And he did this guitar, and he did it for himself, and I had to have it. So
right. Pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, it's exactly as it was in '67.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Even with the paint up onto the frets.
Yeah, paint on the frets and the paint on the truss rod cover.
Oh, on the truss rod cover. Even.
He did it. It's exactly the way it was in '67 and '68. So.
And the two gold knobs and the two black knobs. See, mine's not the actual right guitar. It was called an SG Special that came out in 1982.
Sure. Yeah. That
was a whole different. I mean, it's even got this weird kind of a Kaler bridge on there or something, a Schaller bridge or something like that. And it had three knobs. It had like 2 volumes and a master tone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I changed it up as much as I could. You know what I mean? So a lot of it is just whatever. Like I said, that SG Les Paul that I have is really the guitar that needs to be painted up,
right,
like a fool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all so cool. I've become a lover of SGs. I have 3 of them, and man, I love playing these things.
Yeah,
they're so comfortable.
Yeah,
and they sound like Les Pauls without that woolly bass sound. It's got the mid range, but without the bass.
So I started playing Crossroads on this guitar. And then years later, I was playing it on a Les Paul. And I thought, why is it so hard to play? And I thought, because, I realized, on an SG, you've got total access to the last fret.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before the body starts, you can play all the way up and nothing is obstructing your reach, Yeah. So that's why it seemed much easier. I thought I was just getting old.
So real quick, Ben Tom wanted to hear about this guitar that I have in my hand, and as you guys and girls may know, I have an obsession with some Charvel guitars, the Nitro series 21 fret guitars. They're like the original 1979 San Dimas, 79 881. This one is totally made of Koa, and it's a heavy guitar, but boy does it sound good. It's a Koa body with Duncan pickups and a Floyd, a Koa neck. It's a beautiful, beautiful guitar and an ebony fretboard.
Wow!
And that's the guitar. I'm looking to get some cream DiMarzios to put in this because that's the way it would have looked in '82. But these pickups sound great too.
Do you know Jeff Unger?
No.
Guitarist named Jeff Unger.
Nope.
He does the Tough Tales Animal Rescue benefits every year at KJ Farrell's. Uh-huh. Him and his wife. His wife runs the Tough Tales Animal Rescue. Yeah. I forget the name of his actual band. Symptom 7 maybe or something. And they play a lot of heavy stuff. And he's a big Charvel guy. You know what I mean? So if he's watching this or whatever, he would get a kick out of that. I'll tell him to tune in.
Yeah, I've got 2 other ones. I have a Dakota red one with a maple fretboard, maple neck, and a seafoam green one with a maple neck as well. They're all 3 of them. Since I've gotten them, that's pretty much all I play. And my 335, but that's another thing.
Would it be safe for me to assume that you're an Eddie Van Halen guy?
Pretty safe to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
We try not to mention his name too much in this stuff, but I mean, how could you not mention his name? He's
Yeah.
a pioneer, one of the best guitar players ever, and a pioneer. He changed music like Hendrix did, you know.
Yeah. And again, signature licks.
Yeah,
You learn
absolutely.
you learn those half dozen licks that are his language, and then you learn all the dive bombing and tapping and stuff like that, and you got his whole thing down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here's one. Let me see if I can. Forgive me, we may get flagged for this. Oh wait, am I not
Flagged?
Yeah. Why is this not working?
From the YouTube police.
Oh, I see. Really? Is that what happens if you play?
It does, unfortunately. Yeah, anything copywritten will be flagged.
But for some reason, I'm not working. Something's not working. All right. Anyway, something stopped working. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I remember enjoying the Live Without a Net video back in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Was a thrill to watch that stuff, you know.
Pre, did you did you ever see Hendrix, or did you guys, were you too young? Yes.
Me?
Were you too young for Hendrix?
No, I never got to see him. I remember a friend, my friend Marino, was getting tickets for Randall's Island. And I was going to get to go see him at Randall's Island. And so here's a weird thing. You know, when I was young, when I was younger, my dad used to say to me, like, for Christmas, he'd say, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I would go, "Oh, you know, some albums and stuff like that." And so he would go, "All right, well, you know what? Why don't you do this? Make a list of like 10 albums that you would love, and then I'll buy you a few of them so that this way it's still going to be a surprise for you. You know, you won't know which 3 or 4 albums that I get you or whatever." And I just remember seeing the Smash Hits album in the window of the local record store. Smash Hits album. And I thought, that looks like a good album. And
Great record.
you know what I mean? Like, you just went by the looks of things. Like, I remember the Led Zeppelin 2 album was one of them that I picked. And I didn't even know who they were, what they did. It just was in the window, so it had to be cool. And I thought everybody, like, you know, the cover of the Led Zeppelin 2 album, where it's like a biker gang.
Yeah.
I thought they were all in the band. Everybody in the picture was Led Zeppelin, you know. And who's this woman in the middle? She must be the one singing, you know. You know, so I got I think I got Blind Faith.
All right.
Zeppelin 2 and Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits for Christmas, and maybe All Things Must Pass or something, you know, the same year. And the first thing I heard on Smash Hits was Purple Haze.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just even thinking, what is that? Is it a kazoo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, what is that sound? You know, so until I started learning how to play through my dad's Webcore tube reel-to-reel that he had, like with speakers built in, I would plug into the mic input, put it on pause, and turn the record level all the way up so it would totally overdrive, and it sounded like the most amazing fuzz tone coming out of his reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
It was the exact sound of like the guitar solo on Aqualung or something, you know, coming out of this.
What about that tone? How about that? That whole record is just the crazy guitar sound.
Yeah. We did a tour with them when we were out with Alan Parsons one year. We did Switzerland, Turkey, like all these places in Europe, and we traveled on a bus together, and it was only Martin Barr and Ian Anderson in the band.
Well, who else do you want?
Yeah, and you know, Ian was kind of like a little bit to himself, which you can imagine, you know. Yeah. But Martin was just hanging with us, and we were telling war stories and guitar talk and all kinds of stuff. And he was using Paul Reed Smith at the time too. And I said to him, do you still have that Sunburst Les Paul that you used to play in early Tull days, And he said, actually, I just sold it a couple of years ago to buy my house in Canada.
$500,000.
Yeah, probably.
$300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ask him if he still had that Junior that he used on all those records? 'Cause
No.
That's really the sound. The Junior.
That's the one, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some
He had
sort of
gotten
a
the burst.
buzz.
He got his burst after the Junior.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some sort of fuzz tone going on as well, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Through
Yep.
a P90. Through a P90. It's great. That's that sound. Love that sound.
Yeah. I use a Tech 21 Sans amp. PSA1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
PSA1 is a rack-mounted preamp. And I remember being at a NAMM show, and we were going to be doing a show at the Hilton. There was a place called the Pulse Bar, which was this little venue right off the side of the Hilton lobby with Entwistle. And he had some Trace Elliott power amps and some speaker cabinets from his companies. And they just had this PSA1 there for me. And Lloyd Schwartz from Tech 21,
Love Lloyd.
yeah,
Good guy.
said to me, "Yeah, you're gonna plug into this. We'll find you a good sound, and I'm gonna give you as much as you want in your wedges, and that's going to be your amp for this show." And I went, "Wow, okay, let's start looking for a sound." And the very first program is called Plexi, and I went,
There it is.
Bram, that's it. That was it. So he used to tell that story all of the time, And I did my entire album with this. Just because it was there in my studio when I was writing the demos and, doing all the MIDI tracks and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And so it was on all my demos. So I just went with it. And I took it to Entwistle's house in England for recording as well. And during the downtime when we weren't recording with the band, I would take it up to this other studio he had up on the third floor in his castle there, and I recorded all my guitar tracks for my album while I was there.
Yeah. Wow. It's nice not to have to carry too much gear.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
there's also something to be said for consistency too, right?
Yeah.
So it's always the same every single time.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard anything from my album. It's got to be 12 years old now, and it's all instrumental guitar, but it was all done with this, and only one person said to me, "Oh yeah, it's great stuff, man. I just wish you would have played through a real amp." Only one person made that criticism. So,
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, the guitar tone is pretty warm because afterwards we put it through some plugins with valve.
Let's be honest. When you're recording, unless you really have bad ears and have bad tone, you really can't tell what's, what the plugins are or what real amps are. You really can't tell. If you're a good guitar player and you have good tone and you got good tone on tape, you can't tell. You really can't.
I met Tom Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
We did a show in Texas with Parsons, and it was Styx, Night Ranger, Rick Derringer, Alan Parsons, and Boston. That was
what a great bill.
That was the festival. It was
That's
a
long night. That's a long night.
And so we're talking on the side of the stage, and I said to him, "Wow, man, back in the 80s, all my recording sessions and all my demos were done, I did with a Rockman."
Mm-hmm.
And he went, "So did I."
Yeah, but he actually plays gigs with his Rockman, doesn't he?
Right. They're like these
Racks.
rack-mounted
Just,
things
yeah,
of
huge
stuff.
racks.
Yeah.
And boy, were they good, man! They were unbelievable. He had another guitar player,
Yep.
and then a third guy from Stryper
Yeah, Michael
was
Sweet.
playing guitar and singing, and then another guy who they just found looked like he just came out of Home Depot or something.
He literally did come out of Home Depot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they had a girl playing bass. I
Yep.
forget her name now.
I don't remember her name either. She's fantastic. She's a
Yeah.
singer-writer, so you can Google her. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were just killer.
Interestingly enough, for all the Van Halen fans in the chat, the other guitar player that Godfrey just referenced with Tom
Pill,
Pill
Gary
was
Pill.
Gary Pill was Sammy Hagar's guitar player
Oh wow.
through his solo career. So that's for all you fans in the chat.
Who I
He's
saw
a
them open up for
fantastic guitar
somebody.
player. Fantastic player.
Yeah.
They
he is.
opened up for Boston when I saw Boston at the Garden. Sammy Hagar opened up for Boston,
Mhm.
and it was that guy. That might have been where they first met each other or heard each other or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could have
Yeah.
been kind of to your point earlier that
Well-
once that network is established, that you're
And
just
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why that happened. Because before Sammy joined Van Halen, just before, they were going to do a record, and Tom Schultz was going to produce it. And then Sammy got the call. He joined Van Halen with like a week's notice of telling his band they were just going to start a tour, or a record, either a tour or
Yeah.
a record. And he said, "Well, guys, I'm leaving. I'm joining Van Halen. See ya." So that's why Tom Schultz hired him.
Wow. And so Montrose was also in that band as well, right? With Sammy Hagar?
Yeah.
Was it
Mhm.
Ronnie Montrose? Yeah.
man, that first Montrose record is amazing.
Forget it. Rock Candy. Everybody wants to play Rock Candy.
They just
That's
asked me.
That song is a household name.
We just did one of those stay-at-home kind of things.
Yeah.
Everybody plays, at home, and we do a video. So it was myself and my drummer Steve Murphy, who's one of the best lead singers you will ever hear in your life, and he plays drums like Bonham and sings like Robert Plant, and he sings like Journey guy. He sings like Foreigner, all that stuff. He can sing cold. Come in off the street, sit down behind a set of drums, and play any one of those songs and sing the hell out of it. So, and Greg Smith on bass, and we did Out on the Tiles and Black Dog, like a medley.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube or whatever. If anybody wants to go look for it, just look for Out on the Tiles, Black Dog, and it'll come up, and it just sounds amazing.
Mhm.
And I'm switching all kinds of guitars. I'm using my double neck for some stuff. I'm using
That's
a
so
Dan,
cool.
the Dan Electro black and white DC-59.
So cool.
A couple of different Les Pauls, like that.
Yeah. I just want to say hello to another NEZ SEZ alumni from Nerd Halen. Hey, Caleb Rappaport. How are you?
Yeah. Hey,
Caleb is in a band called Nerd Halen, which is a tribute to Van Halen, but they have a whole shtick of being nerds. They're pretty monstrous, and if you close your eyes and listen to Caleb play, you would think it was Eddie Van Halen.
Wow, very nice.
Not a lot of people have Eddie's swagger. They can play the notes, but not a lot of people has that swing and swagger. But Caleb does.
He
And
does
the
it very
brown,
well.
and the brown tone.
Yep.
The brown tone, right?
Yep.
Wow. I had two. We went down to PV factories in Meridian, Mississippi. And at one point when we were on tour with Entwistle, we went down to PV and stopped in by them, and they gave us a whole bunch of stuff. They gave me two 5150 stacks. We loaded that onto the truck, but they were just so not my sound, but you know what I mean? There was
Very distorted, very heavily distorted.
super high gain. I mean, the clean channel with the gain at 12 o'clock was too dirty.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
know
I
about
just let him go after a couple of years. I let him go, and went back to Marshall's DSL you know, dual super lead heads, and Marshall cabinets.
Yeah, that's really the sound. I mean, you know, for classic rock, for 70s style rock, I hate saying the word classic rock, but for 70s style rock,
Yeah,
it's really either Marshall or high watt, or a Fender, a small wattage Fender with pedals.
yeah.
It's really the sound. You know, you can't really use a high gain amp. You know, I was having this discussion on another show, and you just can't use
My
5150 amps for that sound. You just can't use it unless you're going to play Van Halen, early Van Halen, and even that, it's too much gain.
my feeling about gain is that if you have, as you know, so much gain on that you can't tell if you're playing a Strat or a Les Paul, it defeats the purpose. I like to be able to hear what kind of guitar that I just switched to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just enough gain to give you a little bit of breakup, and then you know what? If you need more for a solo, you pop on, you know, a Klon or whatever. You know what I mean, that you want to do.
Yeah.
For that, I use a real tube driver. It's got a little 12AX7 in there.
Sure. Yeah.
That's just all you need is a little bit more edge and a little bit more volume when you take a solo. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know if it'll translate on here. I'm just using a Noble's overdrive pedal, which is kind of like a tube screamer, but it's a natural sounding. It doesn't have that mid-range bump.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the sound there. You know, any more gain than that, and
Yeah, I can hear
you're in 80s rock zone.
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what is the tone like when you're dialing in the tone? What does that tone do to inspire how you play, right? So, does the tone itself like inspire you as a player, you know, to move forward? And if the answer is yes, then it's a thumbs up and move forward. And I think sometimes guitar players kind of get lost because it's fun. Let's just be honest. It's fun to get lost in the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
Constantly on the quest for tone.
constantly, right? But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be playing. So the tone should be inspiring us to advance our journey, right? And
Again, it's different vibe for different kinds of music.
you're absolutely right. Yep,
If you're going to play Hendrix, you want to hear that Strat. You want to hear that when you switch from that neck pickup, you know, to the treble pickup, that you hear that difference in there. And if you pull back your volume a little bit and clean it up, you can hear those Strat kind of quacks and, you know, whatever.
Right.
But then if you're going to play an SG or a Les Paul through a Marshall and play music that is like kind of like free or right now or whatever, you want them power chords to just go blah, blah. You know, it has to have that.
They have to
sound.
bloom. You want them
You're
to bloom.
exactly right.
It has to have that sound, and that's the art of it. There's an art to it, and that's the art of it. You know, anyone can take a paintbrush and just start painting, but there's techniques and there's an art to doing something a certain way that great artists, they all have a handle on all them different techniques.
Right.
They studied everybody's techniques, and they can do that, you know, pick out what they want to do and go do it. It's the same thing with guitars. There's so many different kinds of guitars. There's so many different kind of amps. There's so many different effects, settings, all kinds of stuff, miking techniques, all kinds of things that make things sound. Brian May used to put a speaker in a bucket and mic it, you know, or something, you know.
Sure. So Bozique says Eric Clapton used some of the same Soldano amps that the 5150 amps were based on for a while. He just played them clean. So, but yes, and you're right. He did play them on the clean channel and with that 25 dB boost on his guitar.
Right.
That's where he got the overdrive from. So, but if you were to play those Soldanos on the dirty channel, it would sound too buzzsawy. So
Right.
yes, that's why his his sound was creamy on the Journeyman record. He used
Right.
the clean channel and then
With
used the overdrive from his guitar, which was
Yeah.
really woman sound.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have
It had
sounded
the
the same.
mid-range,
Yeah, the mid-range boost.
mid-range
yeah.
boost, and the TBX boost.
Yeah, he had both. Yeah.
I have one of those. It's a 2000, one of the very early ones with the lace sensors.
Yeah, absolutely. And he used the lace sensors on that record. So if he were to use the 5150 overdrive sound that's on a Saldano, it would have been Rocky Horror Show for Clapton. It would have been bad.
Mr. Hellstorm 74 says my favorite tone is Gary Moore. I mean, amen to that. I mean, just brilliant.
Absolutely, Gary Moore doesn't
Caleb
get any better. than that.
Caleb makes a great point. He's talking about how tone changes every time you might move from spot X to spot Y on a stage, turning head, whatever tone changes, and that has an effect on a player. Because tone is what especially during a live performance, it's what carries us forward. It's what inspires.
There's a couple of guys, I think it's Beck and I think Satriani, that use Marshall wedge monitors. They have Marshall wedge monitors all around the stage so that wherever they go, they're getting sound through like a Marshall,
So they're getting Celestine speakers hitting them. That's good. That's cool.
Or just don't move away from your amp,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Godfrey, what do you say we take a look at some of your guitars? We're coming up towards the end. It's 9:50.
Okay.
What do you say we take a look at some of your guitars and you tell us about them?
All right, let me just, because I got to take these off then.
Sure.
So
Bozique, I agree. Gary Moore was a beast.
let me bring over a couple, so I don't.
Okay.
Have to,
While Godfrey's doing that, let's we're going to be doing some more giveaways. We gave away a guitar a couple weeks ago, and
We're going to do an auction. We're going to auction a guitar, Dave.
yeah, we are going to auction off a guitar. Ty and I are going to buy a guitar, or someone may give us one. We don't know. And I think me, Desiree, and Ty are all going to do some graphic work on the front of it, like I did on the last one.
I might let Desiree do my share of that.
You think so? How about Heather?
Desiree did a pretty good job on the last one.
She did. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a
you think
Crayola
so?
pack.
How about? That was you talking, right?
Yeah. We're gonna get a Crayola pack of Sharpies and make some crazy designs on it and make it a one-off and give that away. We'll auction it off, and we have some other great giveaways from artists that's been bringing in stuff. Just check us out in the next couple shows. We'll be talking about it.
So this was the PRS that I told you that Paul gave me with birds. It's a scarlet red, not a 10 top or anything, but and I use this pretty much for my whole album.
Nice.
So-
Sounds great.
Sounds amazing.
And that's using the Plexi, that #1 preset on the Sans amp. And this is the McCarty.
Beautiful.
Really nice. A Sunburst McCarty, which, it just sounds like a Les Paul, only it weighs half as much. Little out of tune, but it's a great little guitar, you know.
It's beautiful.
Nice.
That vibrato is outstanding.
Vibrato. That's the
Beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
the Kossoff. And then this is the Taylor acoustic that I told you I got from Larry. Nice little, you know.
It looks like a 614.
Just about.
614, I think it is. Maple.
A 612C.
Oh, okay, 612.
It's like a 93, you know, so it's an older one.
Beautiful.
So it's great to do like some of the clapping stuff, finger picking stuff, and whatever, you know.
Yeah, Desiree said that red PRS needs to come my way or her way. She wants it. I have a red guitar already. I don't need another red guitar.
Yeah. Wow.
Red
Okay.
Sharpo.
There you go. That was my first one that I got from Paul. Drop my pick. I dropped my pick. And I got a gold one.
Guitar Man 45 is here. He says, hello, David and Godfrey and everyone. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous. I remember you playing that guitar. That's the guitar I saw you playing, Godfrey.
Sherry, that acoustic wasn't Taylor.
Whoops. This was the next one I got from him.
That's the guitar I remember you playing, Godfrey.
As
When
a
I saw
spare.
it, when I've seen you.
Yeah, I use this a lot for the Alan Parsons project. It's just a plainer model, but wow, just nice flat neck, you know. Sounds just as good. Yeah, I mean, there's 66 guitars, so
Nice. That's a lot of guitars.
at the moment. Speaking of Bonamassa, I got a couple of those, you know, the single pickup Firebirds,
Oh, yeah.
but they're made by Epiphone.
Oh, look at that.
That's awesome.
What's your honest opinion of those, Godfrey? I mean, I know you own them, and I'm sure you've played
For the money,
a real Firebird one.
I would say for the money, they're well worth it. They were selling brand new for $8.99. This is the second one that I bought, and I got it at a Guitar Center for $5.99.
Oh boy.
And that you can't find them. You can find them on eBay for $1,100 or more, you know. But say, for instance, I got this Blues Breaker tone. You know, the pickup is a little bit bright.
Can you put that guitar up in the video so we can see it?
Yeah. Try to lift my seat up. I think it's up as high as it can go.
Well, just show it. Yeah. Oh.
So this is the Polymist Gold one, you know.
Gorgeous. Oh, and it has the banjo tuners.
Yes.
You don't normally see that on the
Right.
man.
Right. So it's got the banjo tuners, only one pickup.
Yeah, Firebird 1.
Yeah. So this is probably because Bonamassa is such a Clapton fan that he wanted his model to be.
Well, another reason a fan of his lent him the original 60. What is it? A 63, and he still has it on the road. It's like on permanent loan, but a fan of his gave it to him, so that's what he made.
Really?
Yeah.
Check it.
Boy, I tell you, I normally wouldn't own an Epiphone, but that I would own.
You
I'd own
know,
that.
I would love to own that sound. I don't care what kind of guitar it would be. I just want that sound.
yeah.
God, that sounds
awesome.
great, man.
And I think tonight is the first show that we've actually had someone play on it.
Oh, really?
It's a first.
Well, I told you I'm a ham bone. So
Yeah, that's all right. Keep playing. Keep
doesn't
showing us
take much.
guitars and play. We got some time.
All right, so wait, we'll get the other one.
I love it.
The pièce.
Nice. Man, how about some thumbs for Godfrey Townsend? Please
No
give us
kidding.
some thumbs.
Oh, here we go.
Ah, yes. All right.
So someone was asking, what's my favorite guitar to play on the couch? This probably is my favorite guitar to play. Period. It's just that this whammy bar doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No, they don't stay in tune very well.
It's in the way. No matter where you put it, because if you put it around this way, then it's in the way of the knobs. You can't get to the knobs,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome.
That
Awesome.
is
Great
amazing.
guitar. Great
Yeah.
guitar.
It's so much fun to play too because the neck is just nice and flat and thin, and you got plenty of everything you need on it, right?
Yep. Mississippi Queen.
I actually did it the other day, I think, at a party. Yeah, Leslie was using the Les Paul Juniors,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. But man, that sounded great. Godfrey's playing and Dave is singing.
I wish I had the voice I had 10 years ago, though. Boy.
See, so it's even like the vibe is when I'm playing this guitar, I have to play it like that.
Yeah.
Like as if I'm playing, Cream or something. You can't help because of the vibe that I'm holding. I'm holding the vibe of that. You know what I mean? So.
So Desiree wants to know what guitar that is. She says she knows Gibsons and she knows a lot of guitars. And Desiree, it's the same one as this. Same guitar as this one.
Yeah. Does yours say Les Paul on the truss rod?
It does.
Yeah. I don't get it. Because I had a 62, but it had the sideways tremolo.
Mm-hmm. Some of them said Les Paul on the headstock and some didn't. And I'll tell you the reason why. You may already know it. Les Paul was going through an ugly divorce. And the reason why the Les Paul stopped in 1960 is because he didn't want Mary Ford to get half the fortune of that. Of that whole thing. So when in 61 and 62, when Les Paul saw his name on the headstock, he was like, take it off, don't put my name on that guitar.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the reason why. Sounds like clapping, man.
Sounds
right?
fantastic.
Awesome.
And I think he actually used on Badge in the studio, I think he used the Firebird. The single pickup Firebird. Because on that album, it was one of those two guitars, either the 335 or the Firebird that was used for the Goodbye Cream album.
Sure.
Which Badge was on.
Great segue, though. Let's hear your 335.
Wow. The monster, I call it.
We'll do a guitar matching thing here.
Okay.
Deja Voodoo says SG mids and upper mids, the perfect act to cut through the YouTube compression. I agree. And the player has something to do with that too.
And that's for sure.
Whoops. So I'm not sure what these are. I was told they're either Burstbuckers or 57 Classics.
Mm-hmm.
A little out of tune, so it's throwing me off a little bit, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Great.
Sounds great. Really sounds great.
Love that.
I wish we could actually have a playoff because my thumb. I can't even hold a pick with my thumb incapacitated. But
Well,
man,
wow. Wow. So, I use I use that one of those Roland or Boss, the Roto speaker simulator thing.
oh sure, yeah. The
The
rotary.
the RT20 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I get my sound from for the Leslie. I don't have it hooked up now, and of course with the wah-wah on top of it, and it's totally that Blind Faith sound,
Yep.
Sweet.
Wow, you know what? That really sounds like a blues breaker amp. It really sounds like that early, at least in here it does.
Right? I tweaked the sound. I put a little bit more dirt on it.
Yeah.
Just for. So now I also have a quad reverb, which is an old effects
For a reverb or your delay. Yeah,
which
a little
is a
slap back.
little small room, and it totally gives you that, live at the Fillmore. It just has that sound. It's like a live.
How many times must we tell the tale? How many times must we fall to lost memories just because?
Yeah. We used to do that one a lot. We did that one, Bad
Love
Love,
Pretending.
Bad Love, Running on Faith.
That's my favorite song. That was when I would go to jams, I would play Running on Faith. And when I did gigs with my band, that would be like my spotlight.
Wow, nice. It's a good one. That's a good one. You
Yeah.
could take him to church with that one.
Mm-hmm. Especially at the end.
Yeah, for sure. I even do it in my solo acoustic with a 12 string.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Man,
do we still have people watching? And
we do. We have 55 people watching still. Yes.
Oh, they are?
Everybody's complimenting the playing, the tone. So lots of cheers, Godfrey.
Yeah, nice. I could play along with a track. Do you think you could hear it?
Let's try it.
Okay,
what the
let's-
hell? We did this. Let's try it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Just have a little patience.
Yeah,
Let's
I
get
agree,
some more
Ben.
thumbs up for
I
Godfrey.
miss jams like that too, Ben.
Yeah, let's get some more thumbs up for Godfrey, please. And check out Godfrey's YouTube channel.
Ben
Please
wants to see
subscribe
the
to Godfrey.
telly, Dave. Ben wants
I'm
to see
sorry?
Ben wants to see the telly.
The one in the background over there?
I'm assuming. Ben,
Okay.
the blue one?
Yeah, the blue floral.
Ben wants to see the bell.
I know it's gonna be Jeff Beck tune.
Can you present him?
Yes, I will. Well, let's wait till he's all set.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, awesome song. This is gonna be great. So what guitars do you have with you tonight, Ty?
Just the two I've been working with this week. One Strat and one Super Strat.
Oh, we're back.
Yes. All right. Let's get Godfrey up here. I was just playing along with the track a little bit. I know what it was. Yeah, man. That's awesome.
Man, that was
Godfrey,
excellent.
that was great.
So fantastic.
Real quick, the first time I heard that song was when Tom Cruise was taking out the Porsche in Risky Business.
That's how I introduce it every
I
time
was
I
like,
play it.
oh my God, the drums and bass. I was like, oh, that's
And it
that's
stops.
And I don't know if you heard, but I was playing along with you. I was like,
Oh, yeah? No, I didn't have these on.
yeah.
I didn't have these on because I can't hear my tracks and stuff if I have these on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, it was great. What a
Yeah.
great song. Great playing.
I found some backing tracks. Thank you so much. You know, I do these kind of things every once in a while. I'll do a Facebook Live thing and I'll just play with some backing tracks and people get a kick out of it, you know?
Yeah.
It was kind of like the little free entertainment for people while they were sheltering home, you know,
Yeah.
when things were going on, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is these are the Fender Hot Noiseless Jeff Beck.
Yeah, the
Pick
ones that
up.
John Sir kind of made him.
Yep, I guess so.
Yeah.
This is a Jimmy Vaughn body and a classic player neck and a Callahan bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And you got yourself a Jeff Beck Strat, kind of, you know.
Beautiful.
Deja Voodoo just said every note at his beck and call.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I almost lost my vibrato at one point playing a lot of Beck stuff, or when I was recording my album, a lot of the stuff was that type of style. And
Yeah.
instead of you know, you do that instead of
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you do that. So I kind of lost my vibrato for a while, back in the late '90s or something, you know. Yeah.
So the best lick in that Beck song that you just played was that is just, how about that? Who thinks
So
of that?
this is what we were talking about when we were talking about Beck being from another planet. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the note you chose for there, you know.
And it works. And
Right.
it works. So Ty, what mode is that? What mode would that be in?
I mean, that's a blues. I mean, it's in and out of a blues and a Dorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool.
Wow. I do Cause We've Ended as Lovers as well.
Yeah. Well, you also have the right delay setting for it too.
Yeah, it's just the I call it my Beck verb delay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit of reverb with a little bit of delay, and that's it, you know.
Yep.
You see him at the Ronnie Scott's
Sure.
show. He's got a little lexicon, just not even in a rack. It's just sitting there on top of his Marshall head.
Was
A
it green?
lexicon.
Oh, that's Leprechaun. Forget it.
A black lexicon rack mounted reverb or something.
So we're approaching the 10:30 mark, which I think we're going to call it at 10:30.
Cool.
Godfrey, would you like to do a part 2 at some point?
Sure.
We'd
I
love
was
to
just
have you.
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd love to
It's
do a part
so-
2 with you. We'll get you on like after the show. We'll get you on the
It's
calendar for
amazing,
part 2.
Godfrey. Thank you
You
so
know,
much.
there's a whole spectrum of stuff that we didn't even touch on.
Yeah, we'll have to
So-
get it. We'll have to do it. We'll have
Yeah.
to do it because I
Very
definitely
good.
want you back on here. I know there's a lot more. There's a lot more to Godfrey Townsend than we got it into right now. But
That's right.
please, let's get back and get you on here as soon as possible.
Thanks,
For
Tom.
sure. Yep.
Yeah.
My album is on Here Now.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
the Here Now website.
Yeah.
Just look for Godfrey Townsend, and the album is Easy Journey to Other Planets. And you can just go to Here Now, and you can hear every track full, and then you can download it if you want. for whatever 99 cents or whatever. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon and all that stuff as well. But the Here Now site lets you listen to the whole track
Right.
for free.
That's awesome.
Check
That's
it
awesome.
out. Yeah.
So
Godfrey,
thanks again, Godfrey.
Wait a minute, Dave. Before we
Go
leave
ahead.
tonight, can we do something really special for our friend Ben, who is such a telly enthusiast? Can we grab that blue telly over your left shoulder? He would love to see that.
Oh, that's right. Yes, please. And while Godfrey's grabbing that, if you feel like giving to the show a little bit, you can send 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, $5, whatever you feel like, to my PayPal and Venmo. It's dnrwb5150@aol.com. It's not mandatory, but if you wish to dig into your pockets and give a little bit, it helps the show to go on and to get guys like Godfrey and everyone that we get on here. So thank you, everyone in the chat, as we take a look at this telecast.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So tell us about that telly.
So this telly I bought for the Happy Together tour because it's a pretty friggin' happy together type of guitar, isn't it?
It's awesome.
It is. Flower power.
And really, they were, 68? 68 they came out with these or whatever?
That and Pink Paisley, yes.
And Pink Paisley. And so this is that's like a Lake Placid blue.
It's beautiful.
With just the flowers, on top of it. And it's a nice maple neck on there. And the pickup is pretty hot, actually. The pickups are both pretty powerful pickups. It's a crafted in Japan one.
They're great.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of money these days.
Yep. And I have the Strat too. I have the bass and the Strat.
Awesome.
Man.
Like matching,
Yeah.
Like the Strat.
I need those.
Dave, you better start matching.
I know. I got to start matching tellies and strats. Yeah.
God, that's awesome.
Oh my God. Desiree, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say I'm sorry ahead of time.
3-bolt. I love it.
Yep. Beautiful. I see the bass over there too. It's funny. I see the bass by the telly.
Yeah, the bass is like a Precision, but it's one of the early Precisions that look more like almost like a Telecaster bass.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, Telecaster headstock. The body is flat, like a Telecaster bass would have been,
Sure.
which is how they actually made the original Precisions. Entwistle had
51.
0005 or something, Precision.
Yeah.
And it looked just like a telly bass, like the ones that Sting used to play or whatever,
Yeah.
But this is a 70s reissue because the 3-bolt neck,
3-bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
the 3-bolt neck. But this is one of the Fuji Gen. This is made in Japan, but it's a Fuji Gen one from like 86.
Yeah,
So-
Ibanez.
These are much sought after.
Mm-hmm. Great. Beautiful guitar.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is.
You're going to have to
Love
invite
it.
me over your house at some point when COVID
Yes.
is over.
For sure, because it's like my house is a museum when people come to see him.
Yeah. And it
you know,
rhymes too.
I was going to make get a place up in Woodstock and have a big barn with everything and all the memorabilia from over the years, but that plan didn't work out. But this is okay. This was already my house, and I just did some work to it and just made it mine. Made it into a guitar home.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really beautiful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Desiree here is she's not very happy that my house is a guitar home. She's not very happy.
Is that your basement where you are?
No, it's my living room.
I love it. I love it.
Well, that's why, of course.
Yeah,
My
my
wife-
living room. This is my man cave.
My wife used to come home and go, really, this looks like a Sam Ash, in my living room. you know,
Yeah.
she used to say that all the time. Used to is the word, and then she has her own house now.
Oh well, I don't want Desiree to have her own house.
No, but
I told Desiree, I said you can have every room in this house except for the living room. The living room's got to stay my guitar room because
Okay.
I've got no room anywhere else in the house to put everything.
Right. Yeah, I used to have everything. This was my parents' house, and I moved in back in, and I lived in the basement back in my old basement area because I was always on the road. I figured, why am I going to pay a rent to live somewhere that I'm not going to be most of the time?
Right.
So I just made my headquarters here, and now I've moved up to the next level. I had everything I owned downstairs. Now I'm able to spread it out a bit, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice. This was the dining room. This was the dining room, you know.
Uh huh.
So
Yeah.
now it's this room, whatever
Love
you want
it.
to call it.
It's
Love it.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Godfrey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
for
Thank you,
for being
guys,
with us,
both of you.
for telling us the stories. We're gonna have you on. I don't know, sometime. I guess in November.
I
Because
can't
that's
wait.
That's what we have open. We're booked until about November.
That's great.
So we'll have you back in early November, and we'll get you going again. We'll keep the stories rolling. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much. We still have 52 people in here.
Very nice.
The shows keep getting more and more people. I want to thank everyone that comes to watch this show from the bottom of my heart, and I talk for Ty as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody. Please come back next week. I don't, Ty, who do we have next week? I can't even remember.
We have a great young player from Los Angeles, California, named Brandon Paul, who will be joining us next week.
Yes,
I saw
Brandon
that,
Paul.
yeah.
Check us out.
But go subscribe to Godfrey's channel and learn something and be inspired. This man's playing will certainly move you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Godfrey, stay with us for 1 minute while we
Sure.
say goodbye to everyone, and
Okay.
we'll talk off air, okay? All right, everybody. Good night.